Hello, hello, hello. I apologize for this tardiness. I am 15 minutes late. Completely unforgivable. I was actually in a meeting with a seller, a listing appointment. That appointment was at 12:30. This live is at 2. I just walked out a few minutes ago. Not because I didn't want to come join you, but because this particular seller, had a lot of questions, as many sellers do. Very often, this is the first time that a homeowner engages in such a transaction. And there's a lot of questions. There's a lot of confusion, a lot of uncertainty. And my job, way before I sell the home, is to provide clarity and eliminate as much confusion as possible so that my homeowner, my seller, has a crystal clear vision of what to expect. And when a homeowner knows what to expect, the process is that much smoother. So while this is very important and keeping time is important and crucial, I wasn't going to just jetsu out of my seller's home. But that's okay. Some listing appointments take 20 minutes, easy breezy, and others can be over 2 hours. And that's fine. A lot needs to be clarified, and I want to make sure that my homeowner is completely secure and comfortable with the process that lays before them. All right, moving on. What I am excited about, was super excited to hop on here today, was to talk about the interest rates. Now, well, interest rates may not be such an exciting topic for some people, but for those who are looking to sell or buy their home, interest rates are extremely important. Why? Because when interest rates are high, the chances of Mr. and Mrs. Seller getting an aspirational price for their home becomes slim. And the same with the buyer. Mr. and Mrs. Buyer are looking for a property, and they're going to need to finance to get the home, to get the money to pay for the home. Well, with interest rates high, what happens to the payments? Their monthly payments become ballooned because of interest rates. So I'm happy to report that as of this morning, the Fed lowered the interest rates to 5.8. Now, another interesting fact showing how fluid the real estate market is, literally just a week ago, and this has not happened for a long time, probably since COVID, where interest rates dropped to a record low of 3, if I'm not mistaken. In any event, this past week, the interest rates fluctuated 3 times in 1 week. 3 times. A week ago, on September 2nd, last Tuesday, the interest rates dipped to 6.2. 2 days later, I'm putting out my newsletter, and for those of you who want to get my newsletter, just hit me up with your email address, and I'll happily add you to my list. So I send out a newsletter twice a month. Last week I was getting ready to send it out, and I got excited to be able to share with my audience the interest rates dipped to 6.2, which is record low for the past few months. It hasn't been that low. And then I said, you know what, let me just double check that today interest rates are still 6.2 before I send it out. And lo and behold, when I checked, interest rates ticked. It was an uptick. it went up to 6.5. Within 2 days, it went from 6.2 to 6.5. 6.5 isn't bad, considering that interest rates have hovered close to 7, but they weren't 6.2. And this morning, I see that interest rates dipped to 5.8. Wow, that's major. So when it went from 6.2 to 6.5 and then back down to 5.8, every point counts, and every tenth of a point counts. It adds up in your monthly mortgage. So today is a great day to either put your home on the market, as my seller just did. Can't reveal anything yet. They wanted to hold off for a little bit. Even though all the paperwork is signed, they wanted to not yet go public. But it's a great day to put your home on the market. Why? Because you will get a lot more money. You're going to get a lot more bang for your buck. Okay? I hope that's clear. And when interest rates are dipping, there is greater ability to ask for a higher price, because a higher price will still get your buyer low mortgage payments, or even the same mortgage payments at a lower interest rates as they would have gotten with a lower number when interest rates were high. Okay, the sun's in my face, so I'm going to come back. I hope that makes sense. And if anyone has any questions, just stick them in the comments. And if you want to hear about something else, a specific real estate topic, stick that in the comment. And next Tuesday at 2, I will, God willing, make my listing appointments for 10:30, actually 11 a.m. Yeah, that gives me 3 hours. So I do apologize. I underestimated the amount of time that would be needed by this particular seller, but that's okay. I'm sure you'll forgive me for this once, just this once. So I am excited to report about the drop, in case you're just joining now, the dip in interest rates, and those who are on the hunt for the beautiful brownstone here in Brooklyn. Now is the time to go shopping. Call your local real estate, your hyper-local real estate broker, and literally beg to be taken around, going on tours to see which property meets your needs. Because today, you will be able to secure an amazing rate on your financing. So, it is a process. Once you find the home, it doesn't mean that you automatically get that mortgage rate. It's a process. And once you get the home, you find the home you like, then your real estate broker has to negotiate for you on your behalf and make sure that your offer shines and sparkles above all the other offers. And who can do that? Your trusted real estate broker. Now, I also want to talk about, on the subject of buyers looking for a home, while the interest rates are low and you want to capture that, don't be pressured ever that you have to buy the first house or the second or the third that your trusted broker shows you. You have to like what you see, knowing that this is a big purchase and this is a home that may even be your forever home, or it may be your starter home. Irregardless, a home is a home. It's a huge transaction, and no broker should ever push or force or bamboozle a buyer into writing an offer. Never. That being said, I can tell you with experience, with 8.5 years of real estate, Brooklyn real estate under my belt. 8.5 years of selling brownstones right here in Crown Heights, Brooklyn. I can tell you with certainty, never fails when I'm working with a buyer. It's always the very first home, the first property that I show that when their eyes light up like Christmas trees, that is the winner. Sadly, 9 out of 10 buyers feel like, oh, well, 1 minute, Margula. You know, this is only the first house we saw. Even though this hits all the marks, we don't want to just pull the trigger now. What if there's something better out there? I am actually working with a buyer who hasn't pulled the trigger. And the first home that I showed him, he loved, but he was like, 1 minute. We're way too early in the process. What if there's something better out there in Brooklyn? So I don't argue with my customer ever. If my buyer wants to keep looking, that's fine. But guess what? He never found anything better. And that house that hit all the boxes, it's gone. So while no buyer should ever be bamboozled into pulling the trigger, when your when your trusted real estate broker tells you this is a good buy, this is a great fit, this is a great deal, grab it. Listen, just listen. Listen, because you never know. They know. Your broker will know. Your broker understands the market. Your broker understands whichever neighborhood you're in. They understand, and when they see a property and a deal, they know. So listen to your broker and think about it. At least just think about it. Just think about it overnight. So that's what I'm here to tell you. That's what I'm here to talk about. And if you have any questions, I guess not. I don't see anything in the comments. But I did want to talk about that, interest rates, and never to feel pressured into pulling the trigger on a property. And next week, I am going to come to you from a hyper-local hamburger joint right here in Crown Heights, Brooklyn. It's kosher, of course, and I think you'll all be interested in seeing how a kosher hamburger, what it looks like, how it tastes, and that's something I'm going to bring to you to show you the flavor of Crown Heights, because it's not just the homes, it's the neighborhood, the culture, and I think there isn't one person that's not curious on what a kosher hamburger tastes like or looks like. So I will be coming to you next Tuesday at 2. That is a promise. Next Tuesday at 2. And we'll be spilling the tea then on all things real estate. So I'm only a little shy of 14 minutes in. I have a few more minutes if anyone has any questions. No questions, no problem. We can talk about something else. We can talk about, there's something else I'm going through right now. Well, actually, I literally, what's great about my profession is that every day, literally, every day, it's a soap opera. So while I don't want to talk about deals that haven't closed, I'll be more than happy to talk about deals that have closed. And there is something to be aware of based on a deal that just closed, and I will be putting out a podcast on the ins and outs of that deal. But just to give you a little teaser, and I guess a little heads up, when embarking on a transaction, it's a good idea to ask your real estate agent, whether it's a listing agent or your buyer's agent, can you just make sure that there is no contract on this property? You may say, Margula, that's such a silly question. What do you mean make sure there's no contract? wouldn't come out in title. So it may and it may not, and it may not. And on this recent transaction that I closed, there was a previous contract, and that contract did not show up on the initial title. It didn't show up. Why? Because the contract wasn't recorded. So unless the person holding the contract bothers to record it, it's not going to show up. When did the buyer realize that there was a previously recorded contract? A week before closing. A week before closing, when they were getting ready to close, title comes through. Hold on, let's wait for our local music. And part of the culture of living in Crown Heights. It's all good. A week before closing, title said, hey guys, we have a problem. There's a previously recorded contract. There's a contract that went out over a year ago, and the contract holder just recorded it a few weeks before we were supposed to close. Why did they wait till then? Because they got wind that the house is for sale, property was for sale, and they wanted to stop the sale. So that was a snafu from my buyer and my seller, and I did feel bad because ultimately what the seller was supposed to get dropped significantly because the previously recorded contract was written for almost half the price. And in order for her to sell, she had no choice but to give the second buyer that original contract price. So there's many lessons that could be learned from that. But for you, my audience, the lesson learned is before going into contract, just ask your agent, can you just double check that there's no contracts? How can we check? We can have a conversation with our seller, and that's the most we can do. And as a seller, if you have previously gone into contract and for whatever reason you chose not to close with that buyer, you didn't like them, you didn't like the price or whatever, my advice to you, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, try to get out of the contract before listing your home and getting into a second contract, because it will catch up with you. Contracts don't just go away. Unless you can legally withdraw from the contract, chances are you're stuck, as what happened with my seller. So, there are many lessons that we can unpack from what I said, and I hope you came out with something in the last 20 minutes. And I will see you next Tuesday at 2, where I spill the tea on all things real estate right here in Crown Heights, Brooklyn. And send me all your questions, comments, anything you want to know. I am here to help, guide, and advise. See you next Tuesday. Thank you for joining.